Hello and welcome as we continue on in season 4 of the Let's Talk Wrestling podcast. As always, I'm your host, Kelby Bachman, and please welcome the next guest on the show, Colton Wagner. So, Colton is from Traer, Iowa, but he attended Belle Plaine High School. I gotta show some love for those Traer roots. As a Plainsman, Colton was a 4-time place winner, and he was a state champion his senior year. He wrestled collegiately for Wartburg and also majored in biology. Colton went on to complete his degree at the University of Iowa and is now working in pediatric orthopedics at Gundersen Health Systems in Crosse, Wisconsin. He also finds time to help out at the Boys and Girls Club with their youth wrestling. So please sit back, relax, and enjoy Colton Wagner. In the heart of West Union, Iowa, lies a hidden gem in Euphoria Coffee. Owned by local residents Nicole and Shane Havenstreit, they source everything they can from local vendors. From hot and iced drinks, to savory breakfast burritos, to baked goods, to botany tea, and even homemade waffles, Euphoria Coffee is a place your entire family can enjoy. You can find more information at drinkeuphoria.coffee2go.com or visit their Facebook page. And we also have a special gift just for you. Next time you stop in, you can get a free baked good with a $20 purchase. Just mention the Let's Talk Wrestling podcast. Euphoria Coffee. Our purpose is deeper than coffee.
Did you ever use the Granby system when you were wrestling?
Yes, we did. We never went to like a Granby camp, but we did learn the Granby. I guess some people down here, I'm in Omaha, and they call it like the Peterson roll.
Oh yeah, that's what we would call it too.
So yeah, but yep, we use the Granby. Not very
Yeah, it's a
often.
good.
I never really got comfortable enough or confident enough to really pull it off in a match, but you
Yeah,
know,
yeah. It's a good system. One of the ways we kind of promoted getting some kids up here to go, we were watching the NCAA finals last year, and there were a couple
mhm.
guys that hit it.
Yeah,
I think it might have been Jesse Mendez, maybe. It may
okay,
be fixed, but yeah, I was like, hey, this is good easy marketing for getting some kids to go. Just watch the NCAA finals.
right. Yeah, and that is the best exposure when you see guys at the highest level do it.
Yeah.
You're just showing like, hey, it can be done. I mean, we had a guy who hit it in a match and he stuck a kid. Um, Taylor Reichs did it in a match and
Oh yeah.
beat
I
somebody.
was at Wartburg with that guy.
Oh, you okay? He beat Brett Yankovic
Yeah.
with it. He got
No
Yankovic with
way.
yeah.
Oh man.
So
Yeah, I could see Taylor doing that.
yeah, he was really funky. Technical
Did
but
you grow
funky.
up wrestling with that guy? With
Yeah.
Taylor?
He
Nice.
was like my
Nice.
neighbor, really. So we grew up,
Okay.
yeah, running around together, going to tournaments and stuff. So
Yeah, he was
yeah.
awesome. He was in kind of the same age group as us and then
Yep.
ended up teammates for a while. So he's a great dude.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, enough about me. The show episode is about you here, Colton. Um, so speaking of growing up with a bunch of studs, I mean, you grew up with a bunch of a group of you. Did you guys all? How did you all find each other? Because there was you and your brother, Cameron. There was Hinchberger, Zach Buck, um, O'Brien was another
Mm-hmm.
one.
Yeah, and actually Derek St. John was from our club
Yes, that's
too.
right. That's right.
Yeah, just an absolute stud and hammer, you
Yeah.
know. Yeah, actually, I don't know if a lot of people know, but me and my brother Cameron,
Mhm.
we actually grew up near Traer. I don't know if you're familiar, by North Tama area.
I was
And
gonna ask you actually because your Wartburg profile says your hometown is Traer, Iowa, and I didn't know if that was a
yup.
misprint or not.
Nope,
So,
nope, that's right. So we
wow.
grew up just outside of Traer, kind of on a small hobby farm with horses and stuff. And so that's where we actually started wrestling, Cameron and me. And there is one of the guys we looked up to from Traer, he went on to, I think he was an All-American at Wartburg, Andrew Kanak, and then he
Oh.
coached at Cornell for a while with Mike Duro.
Hmm.
But he was like my hero growing up in youth wrestling. And that's
Yeah.
where it all started at 4 years old, North Tama Gym.
Wow.
I think we were on the stage. I think the smallest shirt they had for us looked like a dress on us. I think there's some pictures. So we were
Yeah.
pretty tiny.
Hmm.
But that's where it all kind of started, was the North Tama Gym. And then we had cousins and stuff from Belle Plaine. And so then we started kind of getting involved with the Gold Medal Wrestling Club with Bob Elick. We
Okay.
started that when we were in elementary school. And then eventually we ended up open enrolling to Belle Plaine in middle school because it was a better
Okay.
opportunity for wrestling. And one of our uncles, Jim, he was a coach there. And so it just seemed like a no brainer. We already knew everyone there, and
Hmm.
they were just putting together great teams and had, just won state a few years earlier and stuff. And one of my cousins was a part of that. So yeah,
Hmm.
it was pretty easy choice to, kind of move there for middle school and then through high school.
Yeah, for sure. How far were you from the school?
Yeah, we were about, I think it took us like 30 minutes or so. So it
Wow,
wasn't
really?
terrible.
Still,
Yeah,
that's
yeah, for some of those morning practices, and man, just my mom and dad, just the sacrifice they made to, drive us there and back for a while until we could drive. And then, I don't know how we got around this, but I think I was driving that at like 15. I think we could get our school permit. In
Mhm.
Iowa, you can get it pretty young. If we were driving like, 35, 40 minutes or whatever it was to get there, with
Wow.
just me and Cameron, but maybe they thought, having two of us, one of us was always watching, but that wasn't the case. Usually we fought over who had to drive, and then the other got to sleep an extra, half
Yeah.
hour.
Yeah, that's a ways. I mean, half hour, I mean, you're even saying maybe 40 minutes, and then it's the winter time, and obviously Iowa gets snow, and I mean,
Uh-huh.
there were probably some early mornings and some late nights for you.
Yeah, yeah, it was just a big sacrifice. Yeah, especially for my parents to have to fit that into their lives to get us there, but man, I'm so grateful we did that. I mean, it changed my life. Just not even just for wrestling, but the community there. I mean, I just went back for the Belle Plaine wrestling tournament. I don't know if you
Mhm.
ever wrestled there for at all,
No.
but man, there's just a great culture around the sport and the whole community. You just felt like everyone rallied around you. And it's
Mhm.
got that small town, I'm sure that small town Iowa feel where just, they were just so supportive. It was
Yeah.
just, and they loved wrestling. They love wrestling in Belle Plaine. And so it's just so exciting to be a part of.
Yeah, they do love their wrestling. And you were growing up at a perfect time, for Belle Plaine. I remember Brady Jacoby and Tyler
Uh-huh.
Weeda, and those guys were so good. Oh,
Yeah.
you
Yeah,
know.
Tyler Weeda is, man, he's a guy that I owe a lot. I owe, my winning state my senior year. Tyler Weeda is a big reason. Him and Ryan Krowski, Ryan was in the Iowa room and Weeda was at College. And man, they just came in and were working out with us. And I remember, oh man, they were just showing us all kinds of new technique. And we're like, gosh, you could just tell they were at a whole new level, wrestling with
Yeah.
them. And especially Tyler, it was just amazing having him in the room and helping us out. And it was, yeah, I big credit to him for helping me jump levels, especially that last year.
Yeah, and he's still doing that to this day. Like I talked to some guys at the Nebraska in the Nebraska room, and they all say they
Hmm.
just rave about him. I
Oh, he's
mean,
just an incredible guy. I remember, I think I was in practice my senior year. They were having me do extra conditioning because I had missed because I was actually sick. I was pretty sick, and then I came back and they're like, "Oh, you need to get some conditioning." So they rotated all the whole room on me at the end of practice, and where you get so tired and you're just like kind of barely moving
Mhm.
and not coordinated. And I like remember shooting and splitting my whole eye open in practice, and my whole eye swelled shut for a while, like a few days. And I
Mhm.
was so mad at Coach Ulick, Bob, for making me do that. I was like, man, I was actually sick. I'm barely back today. And then, so I thought my parents were going to come get me and take me to the emergency room.
Mhm.
And then they're like, oh, no, Bob can take you. So I had to go sit with Coach at the Marengo ER and get stitched up. My parents were like, oh, he'll take you. And I was already kind of annoyed that he'd made me do that. But some bonding time with your coach.
I guess, is that why your head was taped your senior year?
Yeah, so then oh yeah, so that's where I was going is Tyler Weeda, he was already doing athletic training.
Mhm.
And that dude, like, he was just took care of me the whole end of the postseason and was like
Mhm.
wrapping it. And I think he was even at state because he was doing some athletic training stuff. And he would, just get me ready and get my whole eye kind of taped and stuff so it wouldn't split back open. So
Mhm.
I didn't have to wear the mask.
Yeah.
So yeah, dude, but you read like Jordan Burroughs and stuff, I mean, they're all giving shout outs to Tyler. He's just like, man, just an secretly incredible dude.
Yeah. Yeah. And then his wife, Megan, she's
Uh-huh.
also from Belle Plaine.
Yep. She is
She's
too. Yeah, she was a couple years ahead of me too. And
really?
I think she was one of our managers as well. Yeah, I think she was too. So everybody was connected to
I was
wrestling
gonna
in some
say,
way, I feel like.
how did you do on the youth circuit?
Yeah, um, we didn't wrestle a ton, I would say, as far as competitions go, but we would do kind of the open tournaments around our area, like North Tama, Belle Plaine, but we were
Mhm.
never like traveling to Tulsa or anything. Our mom kind of kept dad in check, I feel like, just kind of keeping things, because we just had a lot of other things going on too. We were in scouting and always doing all kinds of extra things, doing horse showing and stuff. And so, but we would go to some open tournaments and, we were doing pretty well pretty early on, I would say. And then, I think it was around maybe fourth grade, we were like, okay, let's try to do the whole AAU state thing. And I
Mhm.
think that year we made it and, we'd never done anything like that, and I
Mhm.
think, it was at the US Cellular Center,
Yeah,
and
oh
I'm
yeah.
pretty sure we were, like, stuck trying to park or something, and, we just had no idea what we were doing there. And I remember, I think we were running in and they were calling our names because again, we were so little. And so I think they were calling our names as soon as we got in. And it wasn't track wrestling then, it was like
Yeah.
they're hollering for you or calling you over the loudspeaker. So
Mhm.
I don't think I went out and won that match right away, but I want to say I went 2-2 that first year. And then that was kind of our first awakening,
Mhm.
or it was eye opening, and we learned you had to probably get there a lot earlier and stuff. But yeah, so that was probably the age we started doing a little bit more of that stuff. And yeah, I think then fifth grade. Yeah, I was trying to think of this before the podcast. I think actually that year, fifth grade, I made it and my brother didn't, and then I got like influenza or something.
Mhm.
So then we're identical twins, and so my parents were like, "Well, we've already paid, that district."
Yes.
So I think I can't remember which one of us, but I'm pretty sure I made it. I got sick, and then Cameron was gonna take my spot at state,
Yes.
and then he got sick, of course, in true
Oh.
twin fashion. So no Wagner brothers went that year, and then I think after that, I think we went a couple more times through middle school, and I think I got like seventh one year and maybe like fifth or something, and Cameron
Mhm.
got runner up. So, every year we seem to keep improving but it's kind of funny. You look at, I was asking my dad, like, hey, do you have any kind of names and stuff I should, kind of think about before doing this? And he saw this one of our AAU brackets, and you look at it, and it's got 5 Division I guys in there. You got like
Oh
Bart
my.
Ryder, Matt McDonough, or I don't know if he was in that one, but
Uh-huh.
Joe Cologne,
Oh.
Wolfensberger, and so you got like a bronze medalist in there. You've got like 5 D1 guys. It
Mhm.
was kind of cool. He had dug that out, and so yeah, it was just that kind of class, just had a lot of talent, and man, there were there were some matches in there, but it was
Yeah.
great. It just made everyone better, and those guys were just incredible wrestlers and went on to do amazing things. And yeah.
Yeah. I want to touch on at some point your different hobbies because while we are on here and talking wrestling, and that's what you did, I feel like there was a period of time, so maybe we can just do it right now. There was a period of time where I forget if it was you or Cameron, but you would like Facebook Live playing guitar.
Yeah. Yeah, that was me.
No,
Cameron
because
does a lot of music
I
stuff
watched
too,
it.
but
I
yeah,
would watch it
yeah.
periodically. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've always been doing kind of music stuff. In middle school, I learned how to play guitar.
Hmm.
I went to a Christian camp, and yeah, just really that's kind of where my faith began, was kind of eighth grade, went to a Christian camp, really came back, learned how to play guitar, and
Hmm.
then started right away, just started writing music and stuff. And so really throughout high school and stuff, I started writing a bunch of songs. I was like,
Hmm.
oh, we got to get a band together. And so I ended up starting a band with Zach Book. He was one, he was our drummer, Cameron, and then we had another wrestler in there at one time, and then some non-wrestlers. And
Hmm.
yeah, we started a band in high school. We thought we were pretty cool, but oh man, sometimes I go back and listen to our stuff. But I was really still am proud of like what we were doing. We were gigging around,
Yeah.
doing gigs around small town Iowa. And so
What, you were
yeah,
doing
that's kind of
gigs?
where, yeah, we did gigs. Our first gig
What?
was down at this guitar store in Belle Plaine. And oh man, we thought we had made it, it was so fun. We opened for another like ska band,
Yeah.
and yeah, it was a lot of fun. And yeah, and this is kind of how we were. We had like, I think most of our set was all originals.
Hmm.
So we're like, oh, we're not playing covers. I think we might have played maybe Chasing Cars or something by Snow Patrol, but the rest was like all songs that I had written pretty much. And then Cameron was our lead singer. But yeah, so that, and then, we released like an album, and then, Bob, our coach for like morning runs, he would put them on sometimes and stuff. You're like, oh man. So, but he was always really supportive too. And I remember, I think like some newspaper did like a article of like wrestling and our band, and we thought
Hmm.
that was so cool, because so yeah. And then I just kept pursuing that even after high school and stuff.
Hmm.
Even in college, I started doing it more. Actually, after wrestling kind of came to a close, I started doing more music stuff and
Hmm.
releasing more music. And then, yeah, after PA school, then too, after getting my master's, I had a lot of time. And so I started doing more gigging again and
Hmm.
playing shows around coffee shops in the area and stuff. So yeah, it just kind of continued to come and go. And I still write music and play it. And I love recording music on Spotify, and I release it on Spotify and Apple Music and stuff.
Nice.
But yeah, it's a lot of fun. I haven't released a lot of new stuff lately, but I'm always kind of leading worship through kind of church things. And
Hmm.
yeah, so it's a lot of fun. It was such a great kind of balance to wrestling too. It was just something totally different. You could just
Yeah.
kind of shut off the wrestling side and go do something, not as intense, but just like really fun and a great kind of way to just, yeah, deal with kind of the whole other side of wrestling.
Hmm. Yeah, I was gonna ask how that sort of intertwined because wrestling is intense and you have to raise your level and intense, like we said, but the music that you're writing is worship and it's supportive and it's open and so it seems like
Yeah.
they couldn't be farther apart, but yet here they are, working the same on yourself.
Yeah. And I'm not a big artist by any means,
Hmm.
but even just like the little bit I've done in getting in the studio or doing these like recording projects, you
Yeah.
got to work with all these musicians and get all these parts written. You really have to be like locked in and
Hmm.
disciplined, and like, so it does carry over to doing these big, when you're trying to pull off a big like artistic project like that. You kind of have to have that like gamer mentality because you're paying a lot of money a lot of times to use some of these facilities, or so you have to get in there and lock in, and
Hmm.
but also just trying to get better on every project you do is, something that I always strive for, and but enjoying it too,
Yeah.
and so I just have a lot of fun performing and stuff. But honestly, youth wrestling has taken so much of my time. I don't get
Hmm.
a lot of time to do that right
Really? Okay, so
now.
let's pivot
Uh-huh.
then. So is that, it sounds like that's what you're involved in now, is youth wrestling. Are you coaching where at?
Yeah, so I'm up here in La Crosse, Wisconsin.
Cool.
Basically, I got done with PA school after, I was done with undergrad, took some time off, and then went back and decided to get my master's and do physician assistant. And so then I moved up here, and I've been up here. This is like my seventh year. And yeah, I was up here for a year, and I'm in orthopedics. And then was just really kind of thinking about getting back into wrestling. And, somebody had told me, I think one of my coworkers, about the Boys and Girls Club up here.
Hmm.
I don't know if you're familiar, but they serve the youth in the area and a lot of at-risk youth in our area.
We
And
have
so they
one
do a lot
here.
of.
I believe we have one here in Omaha. I don't know if it's boys and
Oh,
girls, but
okay.
we have stuff like that here in Omaha. Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, they do a lot of, like, sports, and, development stuff here, and they said, "Hey, you should check them out. They have a wrestling program. They're always looking for help."
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I got in touch with this awesome dude named Steve King, and he really kinda got this program going. It was kind of dying, I think, and he just loves the sport of wrestling, and his
Mhm.
kid was in it, and so I he got me just roped in, and after that, this is my 6th year coaching. We're all
Wow.
volunteer. We get a lot of beginners. But what's really cool is we've got a lot of kids that are starting to perform at a high level, doing some state and kind of some national or regional type wrestling tournaments now. And yeah, it's just a lot of joy to see, some kids get the opportunity to have like a high level program that can't afford probably to get involved with a premier club. We're in a
Hmm.
state with like Askren, and
Yeah.
there's a bunch of premier clubs around us. And then, it's like BGC. And I'm just really proud of like all the amazing coaches we have. And again, yeah, all volunteer, a lot of dads, but just giving up their time because they care about these kids and the program and they love wrestling. And so that's just been really, really fun. And, my big thing for the kids is I want them to enjoy the sport of wrestling.
Hmm.
And so, I kind of recite like a coach's philosophy for them at the beginning of the year
Hmm.
because I want them to like know what I'm about. And that's kind of part of my story was like falling in love with wrestling again. But I tell them I want them to enjoy the sport of wrestling through personal victory, mastery, and gratitude, and just hitting on more than just winning or even focusing on losing. I want them to be men and women that grow up to just be incredible people in their communities, and yeah, just live those values out. And hopefully those are things that I'm exemplifying and also our other coaches. So yeah, it's just been really cool. And now we've added freestyle. So
Wow.
these families pay like, I mean, it's peanuts compared to like a premier club just so they, get their insurance or whatever through the BGC, the Boys and Girls Club. But
Hmm.
then, I mean, we're pretty much running an all year round program. So if they stick around, these
Wow.
kids, I've been running a freestyle club for them then too. And then we've been doing some camps and stuff. And I took some down to the Granby camp.
Awesome.
So yeah, so that's kind of what I've been about wrestling wise. And it works nicely with my job, just being able to kind of fit that in outside of being in the hospital. And yeah, it's been really fun and just a lot of joy getting back in wrestling in that way.
Hmm. How many kids do you have out?
Yeah, gosh, I bet we have about 60 something, I would guess.
Wow.
Yeah, we have enough that we have like a middle school where we run a littles class, like pre-K,
Yeah.
up to like second grade, and they have a ton of kids this year. And then the room that I'm kind of helping lead has probably about like 30 to 40 maybe. So
Wow.
yeah, it's quite a few. And Yeah, it makes it interesting. It's such a challenge having so many beginners, but then you're trying to keep these kids that want to pursue it and be at a high level too and are farther along. It's hard to like have enough for all of them, and so I'm trying to really deal with that these last couple of
Hmm.
years. How do we keep those kids growing and developing and getting what they need, but also not leaving the beginners behind?
Yeah. And I mean, to be honest, you have a great person, that a resource right there in UW La Crosse, and Coach Malachek. I mean,
Oh yeah, yeah.
I mean, he's from Iowa, he's from Osage, so you got that connection already, and he's just an awesome human being too. I'm sure,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah. I actually ran into him, before down here in a couple different ways, not wrestling, but you know, I would love to do more with them and or even just get the kids going to like a dual meet every year and stuff. Because
Yeah,
one of the things is these, especially our beginners, and some of these families are not wrestling families at all, right? They
right.
just signed their kid up. They thought it was a fun thing for them to try. But man, for them to be able to see like high level wrestling, even just getting them to a high school duel has been pretty awesome, just so they can get exposed and see, like, hey, that's what we're talking about. That's what
Yeah.
a match should look like.
Yeah, maybe you could just pull out some VHS tapes of yours, and just show him some of yours. Huh?
Hey, I better not tell my dad. He'll probably be pulling those out. I think he watches those on occasion, probably.
Really?
Yeah,
that
no.
that is one thing. So this is my first year at Bellevue East, a
Oh, that's
program
great. You're
here.
coaching.
Yeah, and it's been a trying year, to your point. Some of these kids have never wrestled before. They've barely wrestled. And so to just show them high level wrestling would open their eyes to just lots of stuff. We kind of had that growing up, where we watched maybe Iowa Public Television, watched like Iowa or something, or went to these tournaments where we saw high level wrestling. And some of these kids haven't experienced it, and you can tell, and so just to show them and get them like, hey, this is what it looks like,
Hmm.
you know.
Yeah.
And so.
Yeah, and even with like international wrestling being so, I don't know if you feel like this, but man, just what we can watch now as far as
Oh
like
yeah.
international, even for freestyle, it's like so awesome that these kids can tune in and go watch all of these tournaments now.
Hmm.
Whereas before, I mean, you had the Olympics,
Yeah.
maybe the Worlds. I don't even remember watching a Worlds unless you could go,
No.
so, yeah, I remember going to like the world trials, but pretty much it was watching the Olympics for international wrestling. But now, I mean, with YouTube and Flow and you can just watch all of that. And I think this day and age, if you're not kind of watching technique and watching what people are doing on the world scene, I think you're probably going to fall behind as a coach or even as a wrestler.
Yeah. One thing that you can also do is go to IHSSN, um,
Okay.
and dot, IHSSN.com, and you can pull up archived matches from the state finals for Iowa. And so actually
No way.
before we were talking, yeah, I watched your state finals match in 2009.
Oh, no way.
Yeah,
I didn't
that was
even
cool.
know. I didn't even know that was a possible thing. That's crazy. I was just
Yeah.
asking my dad. I was like, "Hey, how did that match go?"
Yeah. Oh, okay. So here's what happened. So you got a takedown. Um and then he got an escape, came to the second period, and you chose bottom. And he rode you for a minute 59, but you got away with 1 second to go to make it three to
Nice.
one. And then he got a reversal in the third, so it's 3-3. And then you got to your feet, and he had you almost somewhat in like a front headlock position. You were on your feet though, and he went for a trip, and he didn't have enough momentum. He just didn't get it, and you put him to his back, and you won 8-5.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah.
You
Leave.
don't remember that, huh?
I remember throwing at the end,
Mhm.
but yeah, it's just like that is all a blur because I don't know if it's just the adrenaline or
Yeah.
what, but I remember doing that and even the one I lost the year before, I was trying to think about, what had happened and because I remember taking him down
Yeah.
and then getting rode out. And yeah, I've always been kind of terrible at remembering like names and
Really?
match details. I feel like my dad has always been like, "Oh yeah, I remember you wrestled this kid." I was like, "Oh yeah, okay." Yeah, I've just kind of been like for whatever reason. Maybe that's a good thing, I guess. But yeah, that Levi Peters, he was pretty big guy, and I had seen something. He actually ended up, I think, going to Iowa State and playing linebacker for
Really?
football. Yeah, yeah, he got really big, and I mean, it makes sense because he seemed
Yeah.
like a big, just big build, at
Hmm.
that time, and yeah, he was such an athlete. So, but yeah, I had seen that. I was like, no way. I think that's Levi. That's crazy. He
Wow.
got really big and jacked, and then went to Iowa State and I think he was starting at linebacker there. But
Whoa.
yeah,
I did not know that.
kind of cool. Yeah.
Did you do any other sports then? Speaking of like him playing football, did you do and Cameron or
Yeah. In high school, we ran cross country in the fall.
nice?
And
Okay.
man, I just ended up really loving that sport too. And we had a lot of fun with it. It was such a great one to pair with wrestling, just
Hmm.
go out and run. I think we
Hmm.
played a lot of ultimate and dodgeball and stuff too during it. But we actually
Yeah.
had like quite a bit of success with it too. We went out because our coach kind of made us. I don't know if he struck a deal with Coach Tagler, our cross country coach, but he kind of approached us because we were going to just focus on wrestling,
Hmm.
and then he was like, yeah, I think Bob pretty much told us we needed to go out. And so kind of small town school, everyone's got
Of
to kind
course.
of do at least another sport. And
Yeah.
but yeah, we ended up doing really well with cross country. And then we made it to state a couple times as a team, and then our senior year we ended up getting third, which I was just
Wow.
so, yeah, we were so proud of it because we had all gotten there as freshmen, and then went 2 years not getting back, and just really trying hard and trying to work really hard in the off season for running. And then we just had a great group of guys and went back, and some wrestlers were part of that too, and then went back and kind of with that same competitive spirit, we're like, hey, we're here, let's do this, and so ended up third as a team. So that one I was so proud of.
Yeah. That would. I watched a little video. Um, so at one point they did Jake Marlin and Brandon Sorensen were going for their fourth state title, and somebody did a video or like a yeah, they made like a documentary on it, and he ran cross country. Brandon Sorensen did, and she was applauding her Brandon Sorensen's cross country coach was applauding how much effort he put into it because a lot of times wrestlers go out for it just to stay in shape, and they don't
Uh-huh.
take it maybe as serious as they take wrestling. So it's refreshing, and fun to hear that you guys took it seriously. You're competitive, and you wanted to win. You wanted to be the best cross country runner you could. You weren't just doing it to stay in shape for wrestling.
Yeah, we're too competitive for that, I think.
Yeah. Did you expect? So you said that growing up you didn't have a whole lot of success. You placed a couple times at AAU State, but so then going into your freshman year, did you expect to be pretty competitive or as competitive as you were?
Well, the issue was size, which I think,
Really?
yeah, I was listening to Cruz actually on your show, who had probably a similar issue. Cruz Aris, we were
Hmm.
so little. I think I was like 100 pounds coming into high school, and so was my twin. Maybe just a hair lighter.
Yeah.
So what we ended up doing, Kelby, is we ended up saying, "Hey, we're gonna split the season and do 50-50. Cameron will take half of the season on varsity. I'll
Wow.
wrestle JV, and then we'll switch at the Benton tournament kind of halfway, and then I'll take it, and then we'll have to kind of go from there and see what happens." So I was too small to make it, to 112, and so that was not going to work. So that's what we did, and I think I got the better end of the deal because I went to JV first,
Hmm.
and I don't know if you ever wrestled JV, but I was
Yep.
having the time of my life. Like,
Yeah.
weight didn't matter.
Hmm.
You went in and I was undefeated.
Hmm.
And man, my confidence just like boosted. I was
Hmm.
just like I just had so much fun. And the guys we were with, the JV team, it's just always shenanigans going down. The coaches are
Yeah.
more chill, those
Yeah.
JV
Oh yeah.
coaches. And so I just had a blast. Cameron comes out first match, has Bart Ryder, dueling Don Bosco. So Cameron just like he had it rough, I won't steal his story, but it was it was just so much confidence boosting and so good to jump levels and just try different things and kind of get things going for me freshman year. So then I come out from JV and yeah, I was undefeated and I was like, man, I'm good at wrestling. I felt like really good.
Yeah.
So then I go and it's my turn to take varsity and we had kind of right out of the gun, I think we had this Benton tournament. It was a pretty big tournament in the area.
Yeah.
I think we had maybe 3A. I know for sure 2A there, but anyways, big tournament. And I went out there and won it. I just came out, was on just hot. And I
Hmm.
remember wrestling Nathan Vasky there, I think that year. And
Wow.
yeah, it
Yeah.
was just, and I came out and won it. I was like, whoa, like I even I think surprised myself, I was, but I kind of expected just to keep rolling like I was on JV, and then
Yeah.
I entered the season and just really didn't stop, and so I didn't end up taking the varsity spot automatically. We ended up having to wrestle off then,
Wow.
me and my brother, and I think we had to do it a couple times. Like I think we did a best out of three maybe, and I don't know, man, watching if you ever get a chance to watch twins wrestle, it's pretty crazy because I mean, he's been my lifelong workout partner. I know every single move he does. I know
Hmm.
every single way he does his approaches, his setups. And so we had like the highest scoring matches ever, I feel like, in that wrestling room, wrestling
Really?
off. Yeah, and they'd be like, I did come out on top, but I always say it's because I was a little heavier, so I could use my size on him.
Mhm.
And that was kind of how I rolled. I always wrestled up, so I was always used to wrestling bigger kids. And I ended up winning, but our matches were crazy high scoring and, just high tempo reversals. And so then I ended up going into, the postseason then. And then Cameron was on JV. And he
Mhm.
always gives me a hard time and says, I'll never be a JV state champ like he was.
That is true.
Which,
He's
yeah,
got
that is true. He's
he's
got me
got me.
there.
Dang
But
it.
yeah, then I went into districts that year, and there were a couple like upperclassmen, like a senior and a junior, I think, and they were at our district, and I think they were ranked pretty high. And I just came in, and again, I really didn't. And that was kind of credit to our coach, Ulick. We didn't really get caught up with rankings and stuff, and like
Mhm.
it wasn't so publicized everywhere, and so I really didn't know. I knew it was going to be hard, but I didn't really know too much on who I was wrestling, and they just kind of kept me sheltered from that, which I didn't care. I went out and I think I like tech falled and majored these two upperclassmen, and
Jeez.
yeah, it was just like I just was having a great kind of postseason and just really having fun. And I remember like the predicament gave me like the outstanding wrestler or whatever, and they were
All
like,
right.
yeah, I heard this. My dad was telling me they had like asked me like, well, what do you think coming out, wrestling these like upperclassmen and at 103 and they're ranked. I was like, yeah, I didn't even know who they were. I said something like that, which so dumb, but yeah, but that's kind of how I was. I just didn't get caught up or get psyched out by that. Every match I felt like coach prepared us to go out and win, no matter if they're four-time state champ or if you never overlooked an opponent, but you never counted yourself out either.
Mhm. Yeah, what did he do? Because I read an article that, he really pushed trying to peak at the end of the season, you
Oh
know.
yeah,
So what,
yeah.
if you remember, what did he do to try to get you at your best when you needed to be your best?
Yeah, I just don't think he overtrained us.
Mm.
He We started off doing a ton of like conditioning and stuff at the beginning just to get going and stuff. But he didn't have us overtraining on the mat. And I think that was part of it. And he would save all his workouts and stuff. I feel like he's kind of like what Cale Sanderson was doing with Penn State. They save all their workouts. He knew exactly what he was doing when he had a championship team years before. So
Mhm.
he had the experience to know when to push us, what part of the season to start doing laying off on different things, and adding like morning runs and stuff, and kind of decreasing different things like strength and stuff at different times. So we weren't just like going so hard all the time, you know. And I think that paid dividends. And even just our schedule, I think he had it worked out really well where we were competing and stuff and getting different matches. Because I mean, even my senior year, my big my biggest rival was Chris Leclerc, who you've
Mhm.
had on here.
Yeah,
Just an
yeah.
awesome competitor, just
Right.
a really great wrestler. And I remember facing him at the beginning of the year, and he just whooped me. Like it was
Really?
a spanking.
Mhm.
Yeah. I mean, at the beginning of the year, and he was just ready to go. And he I remember, and that's kind of how it was with us. Like we kind of get going, and not that we were cold, but we weren't always like maybe where we were wanted to be at the end. And so,
Mhm.
and then, but come the postseason, we'd face these guys again, and those gaps would be closed, and that's kind of what happened with Leclerc. I remember, I mean, I saw him again at a home duel in his hometown, and I don't know if we were the last match, but everyone knew this was going to happen.
Mhm.
And I think I had beat him by like 1 point or something. It wasn't like a crazy
Mhm.
victory by a huge margin, but man, it was that I was like, oh yeah, I can do this. I'm going to finish this, this
Mhm.
year and finish on top. And I think it was 1 point at state. Then I met him in the quarters. We just had a crazy fun match just going back and forth, and I think I scored a lot in the beginning, and then he started creeping back, just hard-nosed and strong, and so we just had a crazy match, and I think I ended up pulling ahead just by 1 point in the quarters, which is kinda too bad. I think that would have been a pretty fun finals match, but
Mhm.
that's just kinda how it went, and yeah, just an amazing competitor, but yeah, coach had us peaked and ready to go for those matches. And I think something too is the way state was built up in our high school. It was a lot of like, man, that was our goal, right? We wanted to
Mhm.
get to the barn or whatever, the bank then, when it
Yeah.
switched to Wells Fargo. But in that, I just loved kind of like music. I loved performing, and there was just
Yeah.
a great atmosphere, and your whole town's coming and getting out of school early to go down there. And
Mhm.
yeah, so I think that was part of it too, just how they played up like this is what we've come for, this is our highlight, and just leaving it all on the mat there.
Yeah. And your sophomore year, you actually flipped the script and had the target on your back at that point. Did you feel like that at all, or were you still sort of oblivious or like naive to all that extracurricular talk and chatter and all that stuff?
Yeah, I think so. I didn't get too like, oh, worried about, I knew it was a new season, new script that had to be written that year. And so, but it does, I think wrestling, it definitely humbles you, as you know,
Yeah.
and sometimes you need to lose, and I think getting another 4th place again sophomore year, I think that kinda stung a little bit because I was like, "Oh, yeah," like, I saw myself hanging with these guys, taking down some elite guys and stuff, even if I didn't win. So I think, sophomore, I was like, "Hey, I'm ready to do this," and so it did sting a little bit, I think, getting the same place, going to state and getting 4th. You start questioning like, gosh, like, am I ever going to be able to make it to the finals?
Yeah.
And again, moving up weight classes every year too. So not, wasn't really a big believer in cutting. So I never really cut in high school and just wrestled where I was at, which was normal for me. And so, yeah, I think especially going into junior year, I had something to prove at that point, and I wanted to wrestle on Saturday night. I didn't
Hmm.
wanna wrestle that, in the morning or whatever. Especially again, I won't steal my twins' thunder, but he comes from JV the year before to the finals the next year. Like
Yeah.
I remember they're like, "Who is this? Who is this kid? Where has he been?" But if you followed it, everyone knew what happened. But
Hmm.
yeah, it was just so funny. So I was like, man, I want to get to the finals like my twin, the
Yeah.
year before. And then, yeah, but then came against a senior he was pretty hot. That Cody Johnston is who
Hmm.
I lost to my junior year in the finals. And yeah, he was just a senior who had left it all out there and was just again a great competitor. And he had enough to win there,
Yeah.
and beat me.
Did you gain a lot of weight from your freshman to sophomore year? Because, like you said, you kept going up weight classes, but you were such a
Yeah,
small 103
yeah.
pounder.
I went 103, and then by the end of the season, I had filled in pretty good
Okay.
to 103, and then I went 119, and then 130, and then 140. So every year I was moving up. And
Hmm.
again, we weren't believers in cutting weight, and I remember there being some discussions about us going down and stuff, and I just said like I want to wrestle where I'm at and win a state title where I'm at, and I feel better. I'm eating full feed the night
Hmm.
before. I was
Hmm.
training harder than kids suck down and stuff. I knew I was. I was getting better in practices and stuff. And so they kind of left me alone then after I started. The discussion kind of stopped after I started, just wrestling where I'm at and having success. I don't remember them kind of getting on me too much about trying to go down then. And so, yeah, that's where I kind of ended up. And then, yeah, by senior year was 140 and had grown into that. Every year I kind of started out a little lighter for the weight. And then by the end, you grow into it.
Hmm. Yeah, because you were a pretty lean kid anyway. So I mean,
Hmm.
yeah, we're talking 140 to 135, 5 pounds, but still, when you're already pretty, like I said, lean, that can be a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, it's a hard thing. And I mean, when you do like a body fat test and stuff, I mean, you don't have anything to lose. And
Exactly.
just from a, kind of a science medical perspective, like what are you getting rid of when you are
Yeah.
already a lean kid,
Yeah.
you're at these
Hmm.
crazy low percentages, you're going to get a breakdown of muscle and stuff. And yeah, I think that old school kind of mentality has to change, especially if we want kids to stick out, wrestling. And I think overall it has changed for the better, but definitely with my youth kids, I'm just like, I'm not they parents and stuff know where I stand. I'm just not a
Hmm.
proponent of cutting weight in youth wrestling. I think that's silly, and you're just asking for a kid to get burned out and never want to compete again.
Hmm. I forget who I was talking to. That's the one issue with the podcast. I've had so many people on, and I forget who said what, but somebody said, like, throughout their high school career, it was difficult at times because they were at one weight when they started the year, but they would grow during the season because you're a young
Hmm.
boy and you're growing, that it made it more difficult to stay at that weight because they were growing. And you kind of don't
Yeah,
think about that at the time. You're like, okay, I'm weighing 130, I'm going to weigh 130 the whole time so I can make
yeah.
125. But then all of a sudden you're like, I'm 140 now because you're
Hmm.
growing. And so,
Yeah. You have to
yeah,
factor that in. And if you're
yeah.
gonna do that right, I mean, like I said, that probably was why maybe at the beginning of the seasons we weren't always maybe competing the very best because we were typically light for our weights at that time. But come the end of the
Hmm.
season, it never failed. I was always growing through the season. You'd get those extra allowances, and pretty soon you're like, gosh, I'm not drifting as much, or
Yeah.
but there's something, you've got an edge when you're eating a steak dinner or whatever it is the night before and your opponent is running to make weight. I think
Hmm.
that just gives you a mental edge.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. If you know that you ate a good meal the night before and you're drinking water and you're hydrated, yeah, you feel great.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So,
It's hard enough to be on those kind of big stages, you know, just sucked down, and why add another element to it? It's already
yeah.
wrestling is hard enough. It's
Hmm.
already intense. It's already a grind, to add not being able to eat. Yeah, it's just never been my MO.
Yeah. Now going through state and just wrestling in general when you have your brother and like some other really good friends around your weight class. Were you ever able to watch them celebrate some of their big victories? Like when your brother made the finals, your sophomore year, you know, you guys were probably wrestling right around the same time, right?
Yeah. Yeah, there'd be times where we'd be, like, wrestling at especially earlier rounds, like, you'd
Yeah.
be, like, kitty corner to him or something, you know? It was
Hmm.
always kinda funny, like, how the coaches decided, where to go and stuff because it's like, "Oh, both are at" pretty close, and mom and dad would have to choose sometimes, you know?
Yeah.
So maybe they'd go for the harder match or something to
Hmm.
yeah, and I think that's what was so fun about Belle Plaine is just the team. I mean, like, even our senior year, we had 4 finalists. So
Wow.
unfortunately, like,
Yeah.
had some losing in the finals, right, too, but, man, just to, like, back to back to back to be sending out a guy from our squad, it was just there's nothing like it, and I think that just made it so fun. We were always sending a bunch of guys down there, and it was just such a great time, even outside of the wrestling, you're just hanging
Yes.
out, you're
Yep.
at a hotel, and it was just such a lot of fun camaraderie and stuff. And I think
Hmm.
that's something that coach really did a great job of is I loved it. At that point of the season, it was like we're cashing in all of the hard work, and it was such a fun time. And yeah, it was really like, it was really hard and it's you're still at state, but man, I just remember love that's what I lived for was to compete at that end there. And so it was just fun to be able to cheer each other on, even if you lost, and didn't finish. It was just still you still had each other. We still were a team and we were ready to get back to work when we got home.
Hmm. Yeah, and it's always fun when you can share it with other people that you care about. And
Mhm.
so to have four in the finals, like it's always fun when one person gets in there, but then, when you can share it with somebody else, especially a brother, but just in general, to have four, like that just makes it all the more fun.
Yeah, and it was pretty tough because I had to go out after Cameron my senior year, so he lost to Bart, who
Yeah.
was a four-timer,
Mhm.
and so he's coming off, he was pretty bummed and sad, and so it was like, man, it was just pretty emotional for me because it's like,
Yeah.
well, I gotta stay focused and get out there and go do my thing, and so it was hard to kind of keep focused when you see your brother upset and stuff, but maybe it made it all the more sweet going out there and trying to take care of business.
Mhm. Did you watch much of his match while you were warming up? Because like you said, it's not like you're a
Yeah.
couple matches down the road, you're the next match. So I
Yeah,
mean,
I think I was probably in the side tunnel. I think I was watching, but I tried to stay pretty locked in. And I definitely remember watching him come off at the end. So I can't remember if the coaches were trying to keep me kind of focused and back, but yeah, that was hard because
yeah.
in a perfect world, it was like, gosh, I wanted us both to win and cap off a great career for our coach. But Bart was an incredible wrestler, and so it was going to be tough. But hey, Cameron deserved to be out there and go in and trying his best to win. And yeah, it still was awesome what he accomplished and was there. Not
Right.
many people could say that, I guess, too, so
Yeah. Well, how did you stay locked in or fight off that emotion of watching your brother get beat? And I mean, not only your brother, but like your twin brother, like somebody who was there literally since the day you were born, he was there. So
yeah,
that's
yeah.
just a different type of connection, I have to say, right? I would think.
Yeah. You know, it sounds crazy, but I think the year before, losing in the finals was probably the best thing that could have ever happened to me because I you're like, "Hey, what what's the worst that can happen?"
Mhm.
Right? Like, I lose, my life went on. And I think yeah, so what happened was so I lost, the junior year,
Yeah.
and so you're already upset, I was crying and having a pity party, and I left, I think, to go back to the hotel, and there was one of the reporters, I can't remember if it was, like, KJ or but he had been doing an article on me and Cameron, kind of going through the state tournament and stuff. Anyways, he wanted to do an article on losers of the finals. So
Oh, oh,
I think he approached me when I lost and was like, "Hey, do you want to do an interview?" And again, I was being like just, having a pity party and
of course.
upset, and I said, "No, well, I went back to my hotel room and I can't remember exactly how it went down, but basically Bob was like my coach was like, "Hey, you pretty much was like, you need to do that interview." And it was about my experience of losing in the finals. And I have that article still. And it
Really?
wasn't that, that pointed, but it was
Mhm.
like basically, hey, you lost. What was that like on one, and you're at that time in your life, that's like a huge stage. Your whole town was watching. I felt really almost embarrassed, right?
For
But it was
sure.
so humbling, Kelby. And I think I don't see how I would have ever won that senior year and kind of had the year I had if I didn't. And I think what started crumbling at that point and kind of eventually crumbled in college, I had my identity so wrapped up in wrestling. It was kind of who I was. I did, like you already were saying, I did other things, I had definitely other hobbies I was doing, but man, wrestling was kind of who I was. And I think that was kind of an axe to the trunk there, and
Mhm.
so it started to fall, and I think I just got so humbled because I felt like, I had let so many people down, but basically, I had a lot of pride and I had a lot of identity in propping up wrestling something in my life that, hey, that shouldn't be there in your life. And as a Christian, I started learning that God needed to be in that position and not trying to make wrestling everything for my life. And so I think that was kind of a beginning. So to jump to senior year, I didn't fear losing anymore. And even I had lost right away. I wasn't undefeated. Lost to Chris right away. I think he was my only loss that year. And I just was like, "Hey, I'm enjoying this." I was having so much fun. It was like a weight was lifted off my shoulder and I was wrestling different. And I grew so much. Yeah, thankful for like guys like Tyler Weeda who came in and just grew me and my coaches and stuff like Kurt Hinchberger. Remember
Mhm.
him just like, kind of not giving up on me, that whole season and encouraging me and letting me know that, I was gonna come back and be able to be on top. And so yeah, that's what happened. And so I was really sad to see my brother lose, but I was ready to go out and compete versus Levi. And whatever happened, that wasn't my life. I was gonna go to school then or whatever, go to school on Monday, and guess
Mhm.
what? No one cares, and life goes on. And I think that's something that I've taken away from that in all other areas of my life. Like, you're not a big deal, and you can't make idols out of things. And wrestling was one of those. And so I started learning that that can't be the way I live.
Mhm.
And you compete way more free when you don't fear losing, you
Right.
know?
Yeah. Yeah. Agreed. And that is a tough thing to realize, especially at that age, because it's all, I don't know, it's like kind of all you know.
Uh-huh.
And it's all like all you know is losing, like losing's not good. You don't want to lose.
Uh-huh.
But it's okay to lose. Like it's not the end of the world, that like you're saying, even if it's the biggest stage, the Iowa State high school
Mhm.
finals, yeah, and you lose, oh, well, it's okay. Like you said, you're going to school on Monday and people are still gonna love you and you
Mhm.
gonna have to do your homework. Your teachers are still gonna make you do your homework. So, you know,
Right. Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. And people that aren't in the wrestling world, I think it was Yanni Dakamahalis. I remember him talking about this. I think it was him, and his coach was like, they were walking into an arena, and his coach pointed to Yanni and was like, "Hey, you see that guy over there? Some random guy on the street." He's like, "He knows nothing about wrestling. He knows nothing about what you're here to do." It's perspective, and I think
Mhm.
that's something even with my youth kids with like my coaching philosophy of like, hey, personal victory, is that winning every time? And they're like, no. It's like,
Mhm.
no, it's not. Even Olympians are losing. David Taylor just lost. It's like
Yeah.
he learned something from it. I guarantee it. and it doesn't define you, because if winning and losing defines you, or wrestling is all your identity, you're never going to wrestle free and enjoy the sport. And I think that's why Penn State and some of these standouts are doing so well, because
Yeah.
I think they're hitting on that, you know.
Yeah. So you kind of said something about crumbling, Did that sort of happen as you went into Wartburg? Like, did you have discussions about going elsewhere, or was Wartburg kind of where you were going to go?
I think I always knew I was going to go to Wartburg because, man, I just loved Keller. I loved Miller. But
Yeah.
more than anything, I don't know if you ever knew Romeo Gemesi.
Yeah. Yeah.
Dude, that guy and Aaron Wernemont. I remember going there for like a team camp and stuff, and those guys were just awesome. I just looked up to them, and they were just incredible guys. And especially Aaron, he was doing a medical track. I think he was pre-dental at that time. And so really the big thing for us was like they were telling us, hey, you can wrestle and you can pursue, doing medicine. And they weren't just saying that, they had examples, they had a whole line of people going on to do those things. So, and I loved the campus and loved the team. And but I did go and was looking at the Air Force Academy, and we were both being recruited there. So we both got actually accepted, and
Wow.
so we ended up turning it down, which some people were like, "Are you crazy?" So that was kind of if we were going to go
Wow.
to a D1 place, that was probably the most realistic. And I'll be curious what Cameron says, but I don't think I wasn't very like I went down there. I was like, hey, this is not for me, But I think Cameron, if I didn't exist, I feel like he probably would have gone there. But it was
Wow.
kind of interesting. I think people were always kind of lumping us as like the twins, like where are the
Hmm.
twins gonna go as like a package? So I think when I said, hey, I'm not doing the Air Force, I think Cameron was like not willing to probably go. I am the alpha twin, so I had to make the decision. So, and then, we were looking at University of Nebraska Omaha too, and they
Yeah.
were a really good D2 school. And we really loved Coach Denny there and stuff. But yeah, we just loved Wartburg, and I think I kind of always knew I wanted to go back and go there.
Hmm.
So that's where we ended up. And yeah, it was a good experience. It was really tough as far as wrestling goes. And college, it's a big level to jump in the room at Wartburg. You've got guys coming from D1 programs that are coming there, and
Yeah.
man, it's humbling getting in that room. I always describe people, it's like every day is like your state. You know what I mean? You've got
Hmm.
everyone's a state champion in there, and you've got national champs you're working out with. And yeah, it was just so eye-opening, the level you needed to jump, and it was pretty obvious right away. You're like, "Man, you're gonna have to get after it and get going," and so that's what we did, and it was good. I remember freshman year, I think I wrestled, like, varsity one time, and, but was doing pretty well. And, Wernemont was working with me a lot and stuff, but, wasn't varsity or anything freshman year, but really was happy with my improvement, and went and won a big, like, freshman tournament, I think, up in the cities. But sophomore year, it just things really kinda hit a really hard time. Our family was going through a really hard time, and my parents were getting a divorce. I started getting injured for the first time, not big injuries, but just enough to like,
No. Hmm.
rib things. And then the classes when you're doing, a pre-med track, sophomore year is like pretty intense. And so it was very stressful, and I just hit kind of a really big low in wrestling. And yeah, didn't I think I was out injured at the end of sophomore, and I just lost my joy for the sport, and I didn't know, what I was going to do, if I was going to come back and even wrestle my junior year. And so I went into the summer, and usually, you're training. Well, we decided to just get away from it all. And so me and my brother went
Yeah.
and worked at camp, at this Christian camp called Eagle Lake with the Navigators out in Colorado. And
Cool.
so
Okay.
we were out there all summer. And I mean, you're at like almost 10,000 foot elevation,
Hmm.
but it was like no wrestling. you're with like kids all summer. And I just remember like being a big decision and something I really wanted to do, but I knew it was going to come at a cost. I was like, well, I feel like God's calling me out here, but I know that means I'm not wrestling all summer, which was a big change. But we tried to wrestle up there on the mountain. Like we did some drilling on this like grass lawn and stuff. But man, we came back though in the fall and we were actually in incredible shape from being training up there all summer and
Hmm.
and so we came in pretty good, but then unfortunately I was wrestling my twin and broke my hand like within the first like week of practice, and then it needed surgery, and then that was it. So then I
Hmm.
decided to call it quits on that season, and so didn't get back. And I think, again, at that point, I just started having a real, just had to really, just figure out, is this something I need to keep doing? And it was more, unfortunately, kind of felt more like a job. And
Yeah.
it was coming at a cost and trying to maintain good grades and be in the ER volunteering and doing all these classes. And so I eventually decided it was time to stop. And it was a really hard decision, when wrestling been apart, and especially being someone that is a high achiever, to not end with a national championship and stuff. It was again another piece of that identity that I had to let go of. But you know what? God really blessed it, and I ended up doing like a ministry internship my senior year, stuff that I
Really?
wasn't going to be able to do yeah, at a
Right.
church. So I was working with
Hmm.
kids, and so it was just a lot of things that, I just knew it needed to happen. And so, yeah, that's kind of how my career ended. And I was a little sad about it that, I never knew what that last match was. I didn't
Hmm.
even really know when the last time I was in competed, but I just knew it was time, and I knew I was kind of starting to hate it and didn't have joy, and honestly kind of didn't really plan on doing anything with wrestling after.
Yeah.
But
So then when did it start to come in? Well, first off, let me ask this. When did medicine become something you wanted to pursue? Because it sounds like that was a big reason also why you went to Wartburg.
yeah, yeah, I think in high school, I mean, that's something that's just always been true. I love school. I love reading. I love, Byron Tate. I don't know if you ever knew him,
Hmm.
but like at Fargo, we ended up on the same team, but he remembers us in high school, and he's like, Wagner's, you guys had your Harry Potter books. Sitting there, because I was just kind of a nerd, I was always playing guitar, and then he remembers me bringing my Harry Potter books to Fargo, and I was sitting there probably reading the one I waited in line for or whatever,
Hmm.
I just didn't
Yeah.
care. But that's kind of how I was. I loved learning, and so I think that I was like, oh, I think I want to do medicine and pursue that at the end of high school. And so I probably didn't know what that meant, in all actuality, but started volunteering in the ER in Waverly. And that was really, it's like, man, I love this, and wanted to do
Hmm.
that. But it comes at a cost, you'll hear from Cameron. He chose a really intense path and he just finished it, and so I think the stress to keep, the competitive nature to get in to a good school, and to you have to have really good grades and be doing all this volunteering. It was just a lot, and then you're
Hmm.
trying to train. Wartburg, I feel like, runs a lot like a D1 kind of mentality program. You gotta, if you want to be the guy, you got to put in all this extra time. And so, yeah, it was just a lot. It was a lot. So
Hmm.
that's kind of where medicine came about. And then, I finished college and I didn't know 100% if I did want to pursue that or not. And I was actually thinking vet at one point and was
There
working
you
in a
go.
vet clinic. And then, yeah, I was in Ogden, Iowa with Coach Brian Reimers, just an incredible guy, just really impacted my life, and Jesse Sundell. And they said they needed somebody to help with a youth program.
Hmm.
And so I told them no, I didn't really want to do that. And then
Yeah.
they kept on me. And then that's kind of when wrestling came back. I started
Hmm.
doing some youth stuff. I didn't know what I was doing. I think I asked Coach Ulick if he could help me, and Coach Sundell helped me a lot. And man, they just really believed in me. And I started just enjoying the sport of wrestling again, and I fell in love with it again, you know? It was fun working with kids and kinda developing them, and so that was kinda when I started getting back into the sport, and I was just so grateful they kept on me about doing it because,
Mm-hmm.
man, I didn't realize how much I had missed it too, you know, and just, kinda had a bad taste in my mouth, and just
Of
you
course,
just
yeah.
it's just you're tired and your body's beat up and just ending that way, but it was so great, and I just had so much joy getting back on the mat again.
Yeah, that's awesome. But one last thing you said about, going or about the Yanni Diakomahala story about how that guy didn't know and doesn't care. Same thing with like people. It's kind of nice to put that feather in your cap a little bit. Like, yeah, I wrestled and was state champ. Well, when you're going and trying to get into, med school, they don't care. I mean, they don't care that you were a state champ or that you wrestled or did these things, athletically. And
Yeah,
when you're studying like that, like it doesn't matter. Like it's got to be a whole different grind, you know.
yeah. Yeah, it takes up maybe one line, right? I think on my resume it was like, you know, Wartburg wrestling, and then it's like, man, all that work to but, I think in some ways for you to be able to do all that and to do school and that, I think they know you have that work ethic, but yeah, it was just a lot. It was a grind and, and with D3 too, you're not getting necessarily it's not like you have private tutors or,
Right.
study hour time or anything, you know. It's kind of all on you to do all these things. And so it gets to be a lot, but I think that teaches you a lot too,
For
and
sure.
helps you realize what matters and what your priorities are.
So how'd you end up in lacrosse then?
Yeah, so I ended up finishing school at Iowa and
Okay.
then so finally was able to be a Hawkeye. Really enjoyed my time there.
Awesome. Good.
And then yeah, moved up to lacrosse just for my first job. And then I picked orthopedics and then eventually kind of transitioned into pediatric orthopedics. So I work with all kids with like bone and skeletal disorders and deformities. It's kind of fun. I take care of a lot of wrestlers in this
Yeah.
area and stuff, and so that's been really fun to be on that side of helping wrestlers and then watching them succeed at state and national levels. It's like,
Mhm.
and because of HIPAA, you can't be like, oh, I took care of the, but you're like
Yeah.
inside, you're like, I have joy. My man made it.
Mhm.
A lot of these kids have come, they've overcome so much, and stuff. So it's just cool to see them get back out there and compete. So that's what I've been spending my time doing. I work with a surgeon. We're in the OR a couple days a week, and then we take care of kids from with all kinds of broken bones and sports injuries. But
Mm.
that's been my world, and man, it's just been sweet being up here in this community of everyone's kind of connected. So it's such a small world. You got all these
Yeah.
people from your church or people from a school or people that are competing against your kids. I'm
Mhm.
always like, don't be beating up on my kids now. I'll help you get better, but so that's been my world, and it's just been a lot of joy taking care of kids up here, and
Mhm.
it's yeah. So that's how I ended up here, and yeah, not sure what the future holds, but right now this has been home, and I didn't know how long I'd be here, and it's already 7 years, so it's
That's
kind of
crazy.
crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Why orthopedics?
yeah. You know, to be honest, I didn't know if I wanted to do that specialty, but I really enjoyed surgery during school, and that ortho was one of the things open, and I didn't even have a rotation in it, to be honest. And so then I was like, well, this is a job that's open, and it was trauma right away. So I was like, man, I'm gonna see all kinds of stuff right away as a new
Yeah.
grad, taking care of patients, like car wrecks to elderly people falling to kids. And so I started out with that, and then I love working with kids. It's a passion of mine, and they were like, "Hey, we remember you loved working with kids, so do you want to do peds ortho?" And kind of we're hiring a surgeon and stuff. So I ended up switching over to that about 6 years ago, and yeah, I just enjoyed. I think I love the families a lot, and maybe it's a small town. You can probably relate to this. Like,
Yeah.
I just love those connections, that you get to care for someone, and then you're shopping or getting groceries or like at a wrestling tournament, I'll have all these little kids, that you've taken care of. They'll be like, "Hey, my finger is good now." Like, "Oh, all right, all right." They'll come up to you and you fist pound them and are
Mhm,
like, "Get out there, go get them." So
mhm.
I don't know. I just really enjoy that. It really is meaningful and purposeful to take care of a community like that.
Yeah, and lacrosse is a nice community for that. It's a D3 school, UW Lacrosse is, so it's a smaller town. It still has enough stuff to do. I mean, they have Mount Lacrosse. I don't know if you're a big skier or snowboarder, but I've been there a couple times, so they have enough stuff to do. But like you said, you can still run into and see a community feel, in that type of
Yeah,
a city.
yeah. Hey, you come up, you have a place to stay, Kelby.
All right, all
Maybe we
right.
need to do a little, you can come up and show some technique at the BGC, We might get you another T-shirt or
No.
something.
Oh, geez. I don't
That'd
know if
be
I'm ready.
awesome. Yeah,
I don't know if you want me
I'd
to do
definitely
that.
house you.
That's awesome though that you're up there and seem like you're on a good path. You found your way back to wrestling, which this is kind of my way finding back to wrestling a little bit was starting this because I went through a period where I didn't like it either. I didn't really like to watch it. I didn't like to be involved with it. I just didn't want
Yeah.
anything to do with it. And
Uh-huh.
so I feel
Has
like
this
it.
brought a lot of joy back?
Yeah, yeah. Just I think it also makes me a little bit, I don't know if regret's the right word, but you
Mhm.
know, um I crossed paths with a lot of these guys. A lot of you, I think we crossed paths once actually. I'll tell you the story. We went to Fort Madison. Um
Okay.
and we stayed in this hotel and there was like we could like do mini golf or ping pong or something. And I think you guys were there, you and your brother, and I think Hinchberger. And
Oh,
we
yeah.
we all played mini golf together. We all played ping pong. I don't know what we did, but um, I was so
That's awesome.
intimidated sometimes by some of you guys because you guys were good and you guys seemed to take it seriously. That I just wish, like at the end of the day, you were just kind of knuckleheads like everybody else. We all were kind of
Yeah.
our own little
Yeah.
knuckleheads. Just 16-year-old kids being kids. So I just wish I would have been a little more open to talking and meeting back then than I am now.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah, even just like it's kinda like a big family, and,
right.
you don't realize that till you, like, run into these people, and you're going into the wrestling world or you go back home and other wrestling coaches, like, I don't know if you remember Jake Rizzio, I just ran into
Yeah,
him at a tournament, and he's got, like, 4 kids, and it
really.
is, like, I kinda feel the same way, like, it was just I wish I would've maybe enjoyed, like, that type of aspect more,
Yeah,
and yeah, because it's just like it is like a big family. That's how I feel at least as a coach now, even with other coaches and stuff, like, it doesn't need to be like if we don't help each other, like, I feel like none of us truly win. If one
yeah,
club gets super good at the expense of all the other clubs, like, is that really good for the sport, And I think if you have a family mentality, like, people aren't going to do that, and
right.
because we care about each other. Because I mean, everywhere you go, even if you go to another continent and you're like, you've wrestled, you
hmm
automatically have that, like, that bond, It's
Yes,
awesome.
yeah, and especially here, you go to Wisconsin. Wisconsin's very prideful in their wrestling too. I'm sure you're finding out
Mhm.
Nebraska is the same way. We always used to being from Iowa, we always used to give Wisconsin people, we used to kind of give them a hard time because,
Uh-huh.
Iowa was tougher. So, oh, you won a state title in Wisconsin, you probably would have got like fifth in Iowa or something. We always just
Isn't
would give
it
people
so
crap.
funny how they like I've been seeing that like who is it? I think it's usually Askren and Flo. They'll start the
Oh
old
yeah,
banter about like which state has the best like tournaments. Like, dude, guys, like what are we debating
yeah,
about here? Like who cares,
yeah,
It's just so funny like what people get all like kind of, debating and pick sides on,
hmm
But I'm just so kind of pro supporting the sport wherever I can at all levels. And
yeah.
I think because ultimately, like I had this realization I was in Laos, Southeast Asia, back in October, and the kids there, they don't
Really?
wrestle, by the way. Yeah. I was there and They don't
What
they
for?
don't wrestle at all. I was just, on kind of like a mission trip and meeting with ministry leaders there. I know
Ah.
I probably shouldn't just throw that out, right? Like, I was casually going through Laos, but the what was so crazy is, well, I was sitting and talking with a youth development coach for soccer, and
Mhm.
I think I showed a picture of, like, Jordan Burroughs, like, blast doubling, and I was like, "How do you say this?" And they were like they didn't know what wrestling was. And it made me sad kind of, but
Mhm.
they love soccer, right? I mean, that's
Mhm.
all they do there. And all the kids, I played some soccer with some academy kids. I mean, I'm not good at soccer and they're just, they're so awesome. But they do soccer because they love it, right? It's a third world country. They're they just do it because that's what they love. I'm sure some of them are like, I want to be Ronaldo or Messi.
Mhm.
But I had kind of an epiphany coming back from that with wrestling this year. It's like, dude, I want these kids to just do wrestling because they love wrestling. I
Mhm.
mean, like the Lao kids love soccer. Like, if the kids like love wrestling in that way, they're gonna be the best, right? They're
Right.
gonna have success, each of them in their own way. So that was really something I took away. I don't know. I mean, it's not like you just go out back and pick up wrestle like you do with soccer, but
Mhm.
it did make me think about that. Like why can't kids just some of them like I have one kid that's really good, but he doesn't want to compete. It's like, hey, why why not just do it for the love of it, you
Right.
know?
Yeah.
And so I think that's something I'm trying to instill in my kids, in my youth club. Like just do it because you love it. Like I want you to enjoy it. At the end of the day, I don't care if some might go on and that's part of their goals, then I want to help them get to college and wrestle or be a world champ. But some of them just want to do it, I hope just because they love it, you
Right.
know?
Yeah.
So that's something I've been very passionate about lately. But yeah, that
Yeah.
was pretty eye-opening.
And that's funny because it comes completely full circle to basically where we started this podcast of little Colton Wagner with his dress shirt that's way too big at a wrestling
Yeah.
tournament, watching guys that he just idolized, and he just
Uh-huh.
was having fun. It just
Yeah.
that's how you got started and that's how you got hooked.
Yeah. Yeah, and I remember, did you ever go to the Iowa meets and then you could go down after
Hmm.
and you could get all the signatures on your
Yeah.
T-shirt? Did you
Yeah.
ever do that as a kid
I think
at Carver?
I got my I had an Iowa basketball hat and I got it signed. Not a
No
wrestling it.
way.
Yeah, yeah, Joe Williams signed it. Yeah.
Oh,
But yeah,
nice.
so we did do that though, yes, at one point.
And I'm so sad I don't think they do that anymore, but it
Right.
was so fun. You would go down. I actually went up to Dan Gable when I was little one time, and I said something. I was with my twin. I was like, "Dan Gable, I wanna be just like you when I get older." And he turned to me and goes, "You better get to work then." That's what he told me.
Oh my
I was
God.
probably like 8 years old at the time, and, I think I got a picture or whatever with them, but my parents were just laughing. They all remember that. So I thought that and that was one of those after meet things where I just
Mhm.
ran down there, and, of course, that sounds like me. Probably Cameron didn't say that, but, yeah, so he turned to us and he told me what I had to do, so I took it to heart. I tried to, but
I was gonna say that's pretty intense.
yeah, I know. Classic Dan Gable, right? Not like, "Hey,
Right.
you can do anything," or "Just believe in yourself." He's like, "No, you better get to work, son." It's like but you know what? That's good. That's how he is, and he's gonna shoot you straight, right, with how to
Yeah.
become an Olympic champ.
Yeah.
So,
Um,
yeah, that was pretty funny.
Let me ask you this before I let you go. I had another twin on here before. I had Chris Dardanes, and so his twin brother's Nick. Chris actually coaches at Perry High School in Iowa, if you know where Perry's at.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah,
So,
yeah, out west?
yep.
Mhm.
So he coaches at Perry High School, and he actually said him and Nick are identical twins. He got hurt during a tournament, and actually Nick stepped in and wrestled for him. So I know you mentioned that earlier. Did you slash Cameron ever wrestle for each other at some point? Did something like that ever happen? I know you told the story about you getting sick, but I just wanted to know, did
Mm.
Did you guys
You
get
know,
switch?
I don't know if I ever tag teamed him in at a tournament, you know?
Hmm.
I don't know if I would have trusted him. To take
True.
No,
That
I'm just
yeah.
kidding. Yeah, that's so funny. I can't believe they did that. That's awesome.
Yeah, well, exactly like you said, they were already there. They had already paid.
Uh-huh.
And no one was gonna know, so he got hurt, and or one of them got hurt, and the other one, like they were already mid-tournament, so the other one just continued wrestling for him. No one knew. So
Yeah, that's so crazy.
yeah.
I know one time, a couple years in AAU, we were the same weight, so we were gonna have to wrestle each other, and we just did co-champs. So I
Yeah.
don't know if we flipped like a coin on who got the better seed, but
Mhm.
yeah, we just shook hands and
Yeah.
didn't actually wrestle that one out like we had to in high school.
How did you figure out who was wrestling first in high school? I should have asked that earlier, but you
Yeah.
wrestled JV first. How did you figure that out?
Yeah, I think, I'm not sure. I think what happened was, to be honest, I was gonna try to maybe wrestle off for 112 at that time and just like see if I could just try to wrestle at that weight class. And so Cameron was just kind of by me leaving the weight, I think gonna just take it right away. And I
Hmm.
think he might have even had wrestled off somebody for that weight already. And I had wrestled off, I think Drew at 112,
Hmm.
weighing 100 pounds.
Yeah.
Drew beat me. And so there was no way I was going to do that. And then, so then I think he just stuck with it right away. And I was like, well, I'm on JV. I didn't make
Hmm.
the lineup. So, which ended up good. And I
Yeah.
think Cameron, well, I won't steal his thunder, but I think he actually came back and wrestled up at 119 and gave up a bunch of weight freshman year. You'll have to ask him about that.
Wow, really?
Yeah, he would have weighed only like 103 like me, but they needed somebody for a while. We had a whole kind of team thing. And I think freshman year, he wrestled varsity at 119 for a while and was doing quite well, actually. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's kind of our mindset. We didn't care, we were just gonna
Yeah.
go after it.
Thanks again for listening to this episode of the Let's Talk Wrestling podcast. Special thanks to my guest, Colton Wagner, for taking the time to sit down and chat with me. Cover art created and designed by Kristen Gill. Please feel free to rate, comment, and subscribe to this podcast. And you can also check me out on Twitter, Instagram, and my Facebook page to hear more of my content. And don't forget to check out my website at letstalkwrestlingpodcast.my.canva.site. And as always, be sure to tune in to hear the next guest of the Let's Talk Wrestling podcast. Take care. See you next time.